Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back to Arabic Skills Boost. Ever wondered how words come to life in Arabic? Well, today we're unraveling the magic behind it. Our star word for today is
كتب
meaning he wrote. But before we explore its meaning, let's break it down step by step. We'll start with the individual letters, kaf, ta, ba. Each letter has its standalone form. Now, here's where the magic happens. When these letters come together, you get kaf, ta, ba. Notice how the letters transform when joined. The final form, this is the word we use when someone performs the action of writing. It's important to understand that Arabic letters have three different forms when they join each other. They are initial, medial, and final form. Initial form. The initial form of an Arabic letter is how it appears when it is the first letter in a word. Practical example. The letter ke in this word takes its initial form, denoted as ke. This form signifies that the letter is at the beginning, and with this sign, it is inviting another letter to join. Medial form. The medial form is how an Arabic letter appears when it is in the middle of a word, between other letters. Practical example. The letter tet in that same word takes its medial form, represented as te. This form indicates that the letter is in the middle, leaving an opening for the next letter to connect. Final form. The final form of an Arabic letter is its appearance when it is the last letter in a word, concluding the word. Practical example. Ba in the word
كتب
takes its final form. This form signals that the letter is at the end of the word and there is no other letter to join. Note that in the Arabic script, most letters accept joining from both the right and left sides. However, there are exceptions to these 6 letters.
ألف دال ذال را زا واء.
All the 6 letters do not accept joining from the left side. Instead, they only connect from the right side. Furthermore, when 2 or more of these 6 letters appear consecutively in a word, they maintain their isolated forms. For example,
أرز
where the letters
ألف را زا
should join together initially, but in this case, they must keep their isolated forms. Even though these letters maintain their isolated forms, it's crucial to ensure clarity and legibility in calligraphy. Despite the non-connectivity, the 3 letters in our example still come together to create a meaningful word. Now, let's get hands-on. Follow along as we show how all the Arabic alphabets look when joining each other. Grab your pen and paper. Let's start with Alif, or Alif Hamza. Alif, or Alif Hamza, is one of the 6 letters that allow joining only on the right side. It maintains its isolated form when starting a word. For example, consider the word abadun, formed from the letters Hamza, Ba, and Dal, with Alif Hamza at the beginning. Observe how it is written when meeting the next letter Ba in the word. The correct way is demonstrated here, while the incorrect way is shown here. When Alif, or Alif Hamza, follows a letter that allows joining from both sides, such as Tor, in this example of a 3-letter word, this is how we join the letters. Otherwise, it maintains its isolated form. The correct result is illustrated here, while the incorrect one is depicted here. Hamza in final form. When the letter ends a word, the rules applicable to it in the middle are also applicable here. Ba at the beginning of a word. Ba accepts joining from both right and left sides. The correct representation when Ba begins a word, indicating its openness to connect with the next letter. As it appears in this word, Ba in the middle of a word. In the middle of a word, Ba is written as leaving it open to accept another letter on both sides. This is exactly how it is written in the middle of a word. Ba at the end of a word. When Ba closes a word, it is written as signifying the end of the word, just as we write it in this word. Ta at the beginning of a word. Ta accepts joining from both right and left sides, just like Ba. The correct representation when it begins a word is this, indicating its readiness to connect with the next letter. Ta in the middle of a word. In the middle of a word, ta is written like this, leaving it open to accept another letter on both sides. Ta at the end of a word. When ta closes a word, it is written as signifying the end of the word.
ثاء
Also accepts connecting from both sides. When tho begins a word, it is represented as just as we write it at the beginning of this word. This also indicates its openness to connect with the next letter. In the middle of a word, thu is written as leaving it open to accept another letter on both sides, just like ba and ta. When closes a word, it is written as signifying the last letter of the word. See it in this example. Jim accepts joining from both the right and left sides, like the previous letters. When Jim begins a word, it is written this way. Leaving it that way indicates its readiness to connect with the letter that follows it. In the middle of a word, Jim is written like this, leaving it open to accept another letter on both right and left. When Jim closes a word, it is written this way. This signifies the end of the word. Ha accepts joining from both the right and left sides. When ha is in initial form in a word, it is written this way. In order to connect with the letter, follow it. In the middle of a word, ha is written this way by opening it. This tells us that it wants to accept another letter from the left side. When ha closes a word, it is written this way. Ka accepts joining from both the right and left sides, just like Jim and ha. When ka begins a word, see how we write it. The same rule of Jim and ha applies to ka as well. In the middle, we write it the same way we write Jim and ha. What about the final form? That same rule of Jim and ha is applicable as well. Dal. Dal is one of the 6 letters that allow joining only on the right side. It maintains its isolated form when starting a word, just like alif. For example, observe how dal is written when meeting the next letter in this word. The correct way is demonstrated here, while the incorrect way is shown here. Dal in medial form. When dal follows a letter that allows joining from both sides, this is how we join the letters. Otherwise, it maintains its isolated form. The correct result is illustrated here, while the incorrect one is depicted here. Dal in final form. When dal ends a word, the rules applicable to it in the middle are also applicable here. It is written just as shown in this word, which signifies the closing of that word with dal.
ذال
Also allows connecting only on the right side. It maintains its isolated form when starting a word, just like alif and dal. For example, see how we write down when meeting another letter in this word. The correct and incorrect ways are demonstrated here.
ذال
In medial form, when it follows a letter that allows connecting from both sides, this is how we join the letters. Otherwise, it maintains its isolated form like alif. The correct and incorrect results are illustrated here. Final form. When the letter ends a word, the rules applicable to it in the middle are also applicable here. It is written just as shown in this word, which signifies the closing of that word with dal. The same rules of dal also apply to ra. See how we join ra to other letters in the beginning. Can you see? This is how we join it in the middle. Can you see? Now in final form, this is how we join another letter to it. Can you see it? The same rules of ra also apply to zay. See how we join zay to other letters when starting a word. Can you see? Now observe how it is connected in the middle. The same way as the letter ra in medial form. Follow me to see how we write the letter zay in the final form too. I hope you're getting it. The next letter is seen. Seen accepts joining from both right and left sides. When seen begin a word, this is how we write it. Its openness means it wants to connect with the next letter ya. See how we formulate a word that letter seen start. Can you see it? In the middle of a word, seen is written this way. See how seen is written within these two letters, ha and noon. When seen closes a word, it is written this way. Writing it this way means it ends that word. Sheen accepts joining from both the right and left sides. When sheen begins a word, it is represented as written at the beginning of this word. See how we write it in this word. In the middle of a word, sheen is written as shown in this word, leaving it open to accept another letter on the left side. See the demonstration of sheen in the middle of this word. When sheen closes a word, it is written like this to show it is in the final position of a word. See the example below. Sad. Sad is also accepts joining from both the right and left sides. When sad begins a word, it is represented as appeared at the beginning of this word. This indicates its readiness to connect with the next letter. In the middle of a word, the letter sud is written this way, leaving it open to accept another letter too. When sad closes a word, it is written this way. Writing it that way signifies the end of the word. Thod. Thod welcomes joining from both the right and left sides. When thod begins a word, it is represented as. This indicates its readiness to accept joining with the next letter that is meeting it. In the middle of a word, the letter is written this way. This signifies its acceptance to allow another letter to join it. When Dod closes a word, it is written this way to signify it's the last letter of the word. Tha. Ta allows connection from both sides. When a word begins with ta, this is how we write it by opening it for the next letter to join. See the complete word now. Very easy. When we want to place ta in the medial form of a word, we write it this way, leaving it open to accept the next letter too. This is the complete word involved in the letter ta in a word. When ta is closing a word, that is when it's in final form. See how we write it. Za. The permits association from both sides, right and left. When a word starts with the letter the, this is how we compose it by unlocking it for the successive letters to unite. Notice the complete word now. Very straightforward. When we want to position the in the medial structure of a word, we write it this way, leaving it open to tolerate the next letter too. This is the entire word involves the letter the in a word. When the is in the final form of a word, observe how we write it. That's it. Let's proceed. Ain. Rain permits connection from both sides, right and left, like others. When a word starts with this letter, observe how we compose it by unclosing it for the successive letters to unite. Notice the complete word now. Very straightforward. When we want to position the letter in the medial form of a word, we write it this way. Observe how it changes in pattern when it's in the middle of a word, unlike others. When ain is in the final form of a word, observe how we write it. Do you get it?
غين
It permits connection from both sides, right and left, like others. When a word starts with this letter, observe how we write it. Just like ain, in medial form, this is how it is written. When it is in the final form of a word. This is how. Fa accepts joining from both the right and left sides also. Notice how we write it here. You get it? In the middle of a word, observe how we write it too. You get it? When fa is in final form, it is written this way.
قاف
Is a versatile letter, open to connections from both right and left sides. At the beginning of a word, it appears as ready to engage with the following letter. In the middle of a word, cough is expressed this way, indicating its receptivity on both flanks. Closing a word, it is denoted as marking the end of the word. Cough welcomes connections from both right and left sides. At the start of a word, it takes the form of signaling its readiness for interaction. In the middle of a word, cough adopts this pattern, staying open for connections on both sides. When concluding a word, cough is depicted as indicating the end of the word. Lamb 2 embraces connections from both the right and left sides. Initiating a word, it is illustrated as showcasing its openness for the next letter. In the middle of a word, lam is represented as maintaining its receptiveness on both flanks. Closing a word, lam takes the form of marking the end of the word. Meme accepts connections from both right and left sides. When meme is commencing a word, it is written like this: ready to join with the subsequent letter. In the middle of a word, meme is displayed as this, staying open for connections on both sides. When finalizing a word, meme is denoted as this. Noon. Noon is open to connections from both the right and left sides. At the start of a word, noon is presented as written here. In the middle of a word, noon is visually expressed this way. When noon is concluding a word, noon takes this form as displayed in the following example. Wow. Wow engages in connections from the right side, just like a leaf in others. At the beginning of a word, wow is showcased as in the middle of a word, wow is written as when concluding a word, wow takes the form of het. How accepts connections from both the right and left sides. Initiating a word is shown as in the middle of a word, hut is depicted as closing a word, hat is illustrated as Ya, which is the last letter of the Arabic, also connects exclusively from both sides. Starting a word, this is how ya is represented. In the middle of a word, ya is expressed as. Concluding a word, in the next video, you will have more examples by choosing random words, showing clearly how we can join the letters to form words. As you progress, you might encounter various calligraphy styles. Each artist adds their unique flair to the script. Explore these styles, embrace your artistic expression, and remember that mastering Arabic calligraphy is a journey of self-discovery. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on mastering the Arabic language. Until next time, happy writing.